Well, good evening. We want to welcome you to In the Blender with Brandon and Madeline Hyman. And I tell you, we're so excited this evening. This is our first episode that we're actually doing from our In the Blender page. And I tell you, it's just so exciting to be sharing with you guys on this evening. And we're just ready to rock and roll. We're ready to move. And I tell you, it's just going to be an awesome thing on today. And so today we're going to be talking about do's and don'ts in the blended family. I tell you, we're going to be talking about do's and don'ts in the blended family, and this is going to be so awesome. First, we want to do, we talked on the last couple of weeks. Many of you guys that saw us, you saw Madeline and our daughter Shadava. They were on for about 3 weeks, and they just had less talk. They talked about things concerning her experience as a daughter in the blended family, the things that she liked, the things that she encountered growing up in the blended family, and those things that she took to heart, those things that impacted her life, that made a significant change, that molded and shaped her into the young woman that she turned out to be. And so we were excited about that. I mean, we were just getting flooded, just bombarded with texts, emails, things of that nature concerning how much people were impacted by that. And so we're just excited to just continue on in this. We're coming to the close of this year. Just have a couple more episodes to the end. So we just want to just touch bases, want to recap on some things that we've discussed throughout the year, some episodes that we covered that really were impactful and insightful. And people inquired about them, and we just wanted to revisit them. And so again, tonight we're going to be talking about the do's and don'ts of the blended family. And so, excuse me 1 second. Excited this evening. We're at the blended family. And so, yes, and so we're ready to roll. And 1 second. Listen, we're talking about the do's and don'ts of the blended family. I had a little technical difficulty there. And so I think we're all squared away right now. And so, give me 1 second.
It's not on our pages. It's only here.
I just put on my page. And so, yes, and so again, go to your page.
I just did. It ain't on there.
It is?
No.
Don't worry about it then. Forget it.
Yeah, but nobody's going to see it. All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
And so, I think we're squared away with that. But we're talking about the do's and don'ts in the blended family. And so, one thing we wanted to talk about, because we always start off with statistics, 40% of married couples with children form a blended family. At least one parent has a child or children from a previous marriage or relationship. The second statistic is there are 100 million Americans that have blended families, and that's huge. That's huge. And the stats are continue growing every day. Approximately 1 out of 3 of all weddings today form blended families. And this is referenced from the Pew Research Center. And so you can look that up. Again, we just share these statistics with you guys as a point of reference, a point of contact. Just to kind of identify where the blended family is in these days and times, and what we need to do as blended families to make this unit whole and successful. And so, again, we're sharing these statistics with you guys, not just for information's sake, but so that we can make this blended family a reflection of God's plan and purpose in the earth. One of the do's that we talked about, we're going to start off with do's. One of the do's that we discovered is find effective ways to get to know the child or children. In order to have a successful blended family, getting to know the children is paramount. Too many times you go into the blended family dynamic and you really aren't getting to know the children or the child. And so what happens is, because of that, there's a lot of friction. There's a lot of things that come about because there becomes a tug of war. You find yourself fighting or vying for the attention of the regular parent, you'll find yourself fighting and vying for the attention of each other. And so one of the things that we learned, and we didn't learn it early on, but we learned it pretty quickly, was to find effective ways to get to know the child or the children. And so I wanted to get to know the girls wanted to get to know me. And so we found an effective way to get to know them. And so that meant we had to spend a lot of quality time with each other. We had to sit down and talk with each other. And there were some years that went by where we really didn't flow in that dynamic as it relates to getting to know each other. But we soon realized that it was important for us to get to know each other, to get to understand each other, to get to see each other's point of view and where each other was coming from. And so we want to encourage you guys that put this at the top of the list. Yes. Get to know or find effective ways to get to know the child or the children. The second do is find out the child or the children's perspective of the relationship and what's to come. Everybody has a perspective as it relates to the blended family dynamic. Everybody has a idea of what they think is going to come out of this, what they think is going to happen through and by it. And so it's important to, as the parents, to find out what do the child or the children think about the relationship. Too many times we're so concerned about what we think about the relationship and how we think things are going to go and how we want to take that relationship to that next level and that next dimension that we don't even consider the children. And so I just want to encourage you guys to listen. You're not going to have success in this unless you're seeking out the children, unless you're seeking out, hey, Shadave, hey, baby, unless you're seeking out the children's point of view as relates to the blended family, as relates to what they think is going to happen, how they want to see this thing grow and move into that next level, that next dimension. And so you want to find out the child or the children's perspective of the relationship and what's to come. The next thing is, if at all possible, meet with the other biological parent. That's so important. We had the opportunity, my son's mother, she was thousands of miles away, so we didn't have that opportunity to do that with her. We did it via telephone, but that was about it. We're talking about 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so, we didn't have FaceTime and all those different things. But with the girl's dad, we had the opportunity to meet face to face and sit down and discuss some things that I wanted to see out of this. We discussed what he wanted to see out of this. And we also discussed what the children wanted to see out of this as well, concerning the both of us. And so it wound up being such an awesome interaction and experience, because what I found out was ultimately the only thing that both of us really wanted to do was present the girls the best father figure possible. And so we thought that if we both come together and we give them, both of us, then we'll give them exactly what they needed. And so we sat down, we talked about discipline. And it's funny because I did more talk about discipline with him than I did with their mom. I talked more about discipline with him than I did even with them. And that's because as men, you gotta be very careful as it relates to men. I'm not saying that you're not careful as it relates to women, but you definitely have to be careful as it relates to men and talking about discipline of their natural children. And so we talked about that. We talked about how the discipline was going to take place, if and when the discipline should take place, and if the discipline will be backed. It's so important for that discussion to take place, because there are a lot of times that discipline needs to take place, but if you guys don't have that conversation, then you're going to develop problems as it relates to discipline, because one parent is going to feel like you shouldn't discipline, or they're going to feel like they should be the ones that discipline, and there's not going to be any common ground as it relates to who disciplines, when discipline is necessary, or even how discipline is instituted. And so it's important to, if at all possible, meet with the other parent, the biological parent. The next do is get acquainted or familiar with family. And we talking about in-laws, we talking about friends, associates, those that's close to the individual, to the intended. And even if you didn't do that, start now. Even find out, get with those family members of your now spouse.
Right.
Because you want to know how they interact with their family. You want to know how they interact with the children in their family, with the adults in their family. You want to know how they, interact with.
Good evening, Alicia.
You want to know how they interact with even their parents. It's so important, man. My wife is so awesome as it relates to that. Everybody that knows her loves her. I mean, she's just a jewel wherever she goes, whether it's family or friends, everybody loves her. And so I got an opportunity to see how she interacted with everyone, even with her own dad. You know what I'm saying? I had an opportunity to see how she interacted even with her father. And that's important. I never saw any disrespect. I never saw any dishonoring. And so because I saw that, that built up even an expectation for myself, because my thoughts was, if she doesn't dishonor her dad, if she doesn't disrespect her dad, then I shouldn't be looking forward to being dishonored or disrespected. And vice versa. You know, one of the things that I did, and I think I probably was the first one in this move, was when I knew she was the one, I drove her to meet my parents. And so that gave her opportunity to see, first of all, or first and foremost, our relationship as it relates to how I interacted with my parents. And how was that experience?
It was great.
I mean, what did you see from that experience?
Actually, it was like interesting, because once meeting them and talking to them, we found out a lot about how the families knew each other already. So it was almost like it was supposed to be. You know, it was like destined to happen.
So, but we
didn't know each other.
No, but what did you get from them as relates to my relationship with them, as relates to my interaction with them?
You had an excellent relationship with your mother and your father. So I knew that you was going to be very respectful, loving, trusting, a great man of God. It was like everything. You were it. You were it. I watched how you interacted with your mom and your father, and the things that they even spoke of you and about you was all true. So it was like great. I mean, you were and still are a great man of God.
Go ahead, girl.
So,
just cut that out. But that's so important, guys. You want to see how that interaction is. She got an opportunity to see how I interact with my sister. Me and my sister are 10 years apart, but my sister so honors me. It's so funny because we saw her even on last night, and you know, whenever she's around me, if she's doing something she ain't supposed to be doing, she gonna make sure she stops it because of me. Yeah. And so it's so funny because I laugh. You know, it's like, girl, I'm not your judge or your jury. I'm your brother. But she just respects me to that degree that whatever she's doing that she know isn't right, or that she know I may or may not be pleased with, she's going to make sure she stopped doing it in my presence. Now, I don't know what happens once she leaves my presence, but I do know in my presence, she makes sure that she gets things in order. Even our extended family, cousins and aunts and uncles, there's such a great reverence. My wife, she comes from a huge family. I mean, a huge family. It's about 30 of them. And so,
whatever.
And so, I mean, but they love her. They respect her. They value her. She had an opportunity to see, even with my family, a little funny because I guess, you know, they look at me like I'm the prince. I'm the heir to the throne. They just get real special around me. But that's cool because it shows her the level of respect that even my extended family has for me and towards me. And so it's important. If you want to know how that person is going to be with you, If you want to know how that person is going to be with your children, find out how they interact with their families. The next do is allow time for adjustments. Wow, that's big. When you talk about the blended family, that's all you're going to see is adjustments. Every day, every second, every hour, every minute is an adjustment.
Yeah.
You're talking about bringing two systems together. You're talking about bringing two systems together and making them into one. And so you're seeing those things transpire or evolve right before your face. And because you're seeing those things, there's times that you have to allow for adjustments. Understand that even as you grow together, there's some things that we liked early on that we don't necessarily like now, or not so much like, but we don't do now. There are some places that we used to go that we don't necessarily go. There's some things we used to say that we don't necessarily say. So there's always some changes that's taking place. And so you have to allow the adjustment period, because we're forever changing. We're forever evolving and growing and maturing. And so you want to make sure that you allow that space, even allowing space for adjustments as it relates to personalities. Me and my wife, we love to joke. We love the kid. We love the joke. We really like the joke, but our joking style is a little different. And so very, very, I said a little different, but it's very different. I think I'm a little more funnier than she is.
Whatever.
I think she's a little more sarcastic in her joking, but our joking styles so complement each other because it keeps us laughing. And so you want to make sure that you give time for adjustment. Even with the children, you have to give the children time to adjust. One of the problems that I had, and I'm doing a lot of talking.
Yeah, because I'm trying to fix
Yeah, because you ain't tech savvy. You messing up your stuff over there. But one of the things that for me, I didn't allow the children too much adjustment time in the beginning. And so I came in like a drill sergeant, you know, like her, and I was barking out orders and I was barking out commands, but I never allowed them time to adjust to me, to adjust to this new life, this new relationship. I literally cut off their hand from their face. I mean, as it relates to the things that they used to do in the family. They were used to spending time with my wife as soon as she got home. They were used to spending time with their mother in the bedroom. I wasn't used to that. I didn't do that growing up. And so that was very new to me. And so that was adjustment time for myself and them. You know, but things would have been a lot better and a lot smoother early on had I known how to allow for adjustments to take place, and had I given space for adjustment. So we want to encourage you guys to allow time for adjustment. The next one is allow time for change and compromise. Because adjustment isn't change. Change is change. And you got to allow time for change. Like I said previously when I was talking about that, is there things that change.
Right.
You know, allow time for change. Because all change isn't bad, all change isn't good, but change is necessary. And so you have to allow time for change. Just like in the earth, there's changes in seasons. You have your fall, you have your winter, you have your spring, and you have your summer. Just like you have those seasons of changes, guess what? In families, especially in the blended family, there's going to be a lot of seasons of changes. There's going to be, there can be seasons of resentment. There can be seasons of anger. There can be seasons of remorse. There can be seasons of frustration, seasons of joy, seasons of happiness. So you're going to have to allow all those seasons to take place. Because if you don't, then what you're going to do is you're going to bottle things up. And I don't drink colas anymore, but I remember back in the day, you used to drink a cola and you shake that thing up. And once you loosen that top, if you don't loosen that top slowly, it'll make a mess. Well, what happens is if you don't allow time for change, you're shaking that thing up, and you're turning the top real fast. And so what happens because of that, there comes a big mess. And that happened to us early on.
Right.
Man, I was shaking that thing up, and I was shaking it up, and then I turned the top real fast. and I didn't let the air ease out or suit. Well, you know what I'm saying. I didn't let the air out slowly. And so because I didn't let the air out slowly, all the insides began to come out. And so we started dealing with some things internally that we didn't even have to deal with, but because I didn't have wisdom enough to slowly turn the top. Things were made a mess. And so you want to allow time for change and compromise. And let me tell you something, compromise is necessary.
Right.
Compromise is necessary because you can't be stuck just on your way. I was stuck just on my way, the way I thought, the way I saw. And even to this day, I have to catch myself because I can be very single-minded, especially as it relates to us. I could be very one way in my thinking. And so I have to understand that my wife is her own individual. She's a product of my intelligent choice. And if I don't allow her to think the way she thinks or see things the way she thinks, then what does that say about me? Because the Bible says a man that finds a wife, not a wife that finds a husband, but a man that finds a wife. And so because I found her and she's my good thing, then I have to now allow or understand that she's valuable. How she think is valuable, what she think is valuable, her point of view is valuable. Although it could be a little funny, although it could be a little strange.
Whatever.
But I have to make sure that, you know what I'm saying, I give her space to be her own woman. Because she adds value. There are some things, man, if I would have listened to her years ago, I wouldn't have made some of the dumb decisions and choices that I made. We wouldn't have gone through some of the headaches that we went through. We wouldn't have lived in some of the places that we lived. And, you know, but when I really understood that, man, this girl is on point. She might don't think like me. She might don't see things the way I see it. But I have to really tap into that. I have to really tap into how she see things, why she see it the way she see it. That's important. And so make sure that you understand the value of compromise. The last do we're going to talk about is always keep the lines of communication open. And that's important. What you going to say?
No, I was going to say that's something that we've always done.
Yes.
I
think I'm a little
able
bit
to
more
talk about
open than
anything. No.
Yeah. Early on especially. You'll get mad and you'll shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's lines of communication.
That's because you wasn't listening to the stuff I would tell you.
But that's lines of communication. But I was hoping you wasn't.
No.
So, okay. And so you want to always make sure that you keep the lines of communication open. It's so important. You know, we had that little episode going on. But it's important because early on, Madeline would get frustrated about stuff. She'd get upset about things. And she'd just shut down. And I want to talk about it because if I'm missing the mark, if I'm messing up, let's talk about it. Don't just shut down, because how am I going to make the proper adjustments or make the proper changes if you're not telling me, or if you get frustrated and you don't want to talk about it no more?
I remember I could go days or weeks and
just mean. Just horrible. Just downright just, I don't even know.
Do dumb stuff.
No, just mean. I
just used to do dumb stuff.
No, it's just mean.
No.
Mean. And so you want to keep those lines of communication open. Don't shut down. Don't close the door on each other. The Bible says it like this: be angry, but sin not.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with being angry. There's nothing wrong with being frustrated. That's a natural reaction to an emotion, to a situation. It's what you do with that that's the sin. And see, when you close down the lines of communication, when you shut the door on each other, what you're ultimately doing is you're opening the door for the enemy to come in and bring divisive measures. Right. You're opening the door. And that's one thing that even to this day, I'm still the type of person, if a woman says something to me that's crazy, a little off the wall, we're going to talk about that, because first of all, it's hilarious to me. But it's important because I don't want her to ever be in a situation where somebody say something and she don't know about it. You know, and so keep those lines of communication open. Make sure that you guys talking about stuff. Even sometimes it may seem hard because a lot of people don't talk, sweetie, because it seems hard to them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or they don't want to feel a certain way about what they're talking about. Man, forget all that.
Or they don't want to think they hurting the other person feeling, or.
Give me an example.
Okay, like you talking about keeping the lines of communication open, right?
Yeah,
and about
yeah,
anything, right?
Yeah.
It could be something as let me think of a good example. It could be something as far as...
You want to use me anyway, so go ahead and use it.
No, not necessarily. It could just be something about you don't like the way somebody doing something. You know, like you may say, you may not like the way that a person is speaking to you or talking to you, their tone, you know, and you kind of don't want to say it because you feel like, you know, they're not going to receive it, or they're going to say, throw it on you. Well, no, that's just how you receiving it.
Like how you be talking to me sometimes?
No, like how you be talking sometimes. That's
no, like how you be talking, like you be talking to me sometimes.
But you know what I'm saying.
And I be saying, you don't gotta say it like that.
Whatever.
Got you. And so.
I know Will was telling somebody to share it.
Okay, yeah, and so it's important. Wow, what time?
Oh, it's 7:56.
And so, listen, going back to the dudes, find effective ways to get to know the child or the children. This is important, man. We want to close this year out with some real strong points. The last couple of weeks, we're going to be backtracking on a couple episodes. So we want to make sure that you guys are really, foundationally set. So when we go into this year, 2018, man, we taking off. We're not slow walking anymore. We taking off. And so we're going to continue these last couple of weeks laying down additional foundational principles so that when you go into this next year, you're on fire. You're charged up. You're ready to take your family to that next level, that next dimension. So find effective ways to get to know the child or the children. Find out the child or the children's perspective of the relationship or what they think is to come. That's important, man. Like you heard Shadava talk about a couple weeks ago, I didn't give them that opportunity to give input on how they thought this family was going to be, how they thought things should be run, how they thought things should go. And so I didn't allow them the opportunity to give any input. Right. And I so hurt the family because they so smart and so intelligent that it would have benefited even myself to know what they thought. You know, because I knew I didn't know stuff. I knew it was things that I was lacking, but because I knew I didn't know things, I figured nobody else knew it. I figured nobody else had wisdom or understanding. And so it's important, especially the children. The Bible says out of the mouth of babes come perfected praise or perfect praise. And so it was important, man. If I would have understood that in the beginning, wow, it would have been awesome, the things that we would accomplish as a couple and as a family. And so if at all possible, meet with the other biological parent. You guys heard me talk about, man, let me say this. I shared that with one of my pastor friends, Pastor Chris Brown. I shared with him before how me and their dad are so close. I mean, like when we get together, we spend 90% of our time talking to each other. It's so hilarious because they're laughing. The kids are laughing at us. My wife, she's laughing at us because, but it's important to us to just really talk to each other, to see how each other's doing.
You guys have an interest.
Exactly. I'm concerned about him. You know what I'm saying? I'm interested in him. I'm interested in his walk. I'm interested in his life. I'm interested in what he's doing. Why? Because we both have a vested interest in three beautiful young ladies. And so it's important that
and
for me,
a bunch of
grandkids, you know? And so it's important that he's around, that he's alive, that he's well. You know, I don't want them hurt or grieving because of anything. And so what's important to them is important to me.
Right.
And so it's important, guys. You want to make sure that if it's all possible, that you sit down with that parent, you know what I'm saying, or you sit down with that spouse and find out what it is that Yes, sir. Yes, yes,
Pastor
Chris.
Bronson, I have applied that exact same principle. Have the best relationship with both the mom and husband.
Exactly.
Amen.
Exactly.
Amen,
But
sir.
because it's real.
Yep.
Because it's real. We're not sharing anything with you guys that we haven't proven to be effective.
Right.
We aren't sharing anything. Let me tell you, we're talking about 20 years. I still to this day can't sleep without my. I still to this day, you know what I'm saying? If my wife goes on an overnighter, man, it's hard for me to sleep to this day, 20 years later. And so it's important, man, that you do these things, that you work out and walk out these principles. In the last couple minutes, allow time for adjustments, allow time for change and compromise, and always keep the lines of communication open. And that's one thing I think we've been super successful in. Even the girls, I mean, they call like nobody business. I mean, I probably get more phone calls than Madeline does, you know what I'm saying, now. But that's because I kept the lines of communication open.
Yep.
Even when I thought I closed them, I had to humble myself and repent and reopen those doors. And some of you guys, let me say this, some of you going to have to go back and repent for some of the things that you did. Go back to your spouse and ask for forgiveness. Go back to those children and ask for forgiveness of things that you've said and you've done. About 8 years ago, we've been back here about 10 years now.
Almost 10.
Almost 10 years ago. So about 9 years ago, I sat each and every girl down individually, or each and every young lady down individually. And I openly repented to them of the things that I did early on in our relationship. And even though we moved further on, it was important to me to close that door.
Right.
It was important for me to put the nail in that coffin. And so I went to each and every one of them individually, you know, one-on-one, and I talked with them, and we cried and we hugged and we snotted and we shared with each other. And I made it right because I knew that one day we were going to have to share this experience. Right. And in order to share this experience effectively, it was some things that I need to do at that present moment. And so they understand something, guys. People are watching you.
Yep.
People are watching how, all my girls' friends know, regardless of our stance, they know our love.
Right.
They know how we, especially myself, they know I love my girls. They've never once in 20 years have been called stepchildren. First of all, I don't even say the word stepchildren. So they've never been called steps anyway. Because like I said before, the only steps you have in your house are the ones that lead to the front door and the ones that either go upstairs to the bedroom or go downstairs to the basement. And so those are the only steps you have in your home. And so, but it's important to understand that. Listen, guys, our time is out. Oh, let me see that book, sweetie. Let me see that book. And so we're going to be sewing this book. We told you guys, we're just on a mission to empower everybody that watches us on In the Blender with Brandon and Madeline Hyman. And so we want to share this book. This is an awesome read by our pastor, apostle, Dr. Michael A. Freeman. And this book is called Before the Storm. Yeah, we kind of look like, see that bald head? And so we're going to sew this book into Alicia Webster. And so listen, Alicia, make sure that you send your information where?
To weareablendedfamily@gmail.com.
Give it to her one more time.
Email us your information so that you can receive your gift. weareablendedfamily@gmail.com.
Yes, we're going to sow this into Alicia's life. It's called Before the Storm, and it's pre-storm strategies. Let me tell you guys something. Even if we don't sow this to you, you want to make sure you go on Amazon or all your local, all your readers, you want that you can order your books from, and you want to purchase this book. It's an awesome read, Before the Storm, Pre-Storm Strategies by Apostle Dr. Michael A. Freeman. And I tell you, it's just so awesome that the tidbits, the nuggets that you're going to get for this, because everybody is going to experience storms.
Yeah.
Whether you want to or not, guess what? Most people know that there are hurricane seasons, there are tornado seasons, there are all kind of seasons that hit your life. And so you want to know strategies on how to handle those things when it comes. The worst thing to do is be in a storm without an umbrella. The worst thing to do is to be in a storm where there's no covering and there's no protection. And so you want to get these pre-stone strategies. Alicia, hit us up at weareblendedfamily@gmail.com. We're going to make sure that we get this information out to you. We love you guys. We thank you for viewing. Tune in next week. We're going to be talking about the don'ts in the blended family. This week we talked about the do's. Next week we're going to be talking about the don'ts. Make sure, listen, tell a neighbor, tell a friend, especially those that are blended family, those that are fresh and new families. They want to be in with us. All those that are viewing, please share. Make sure that you're sharing, guys. We're taking, you see behind us, we're taking this message to the nations, and we're so excited for this opportunity to share with you guys. And until next week, we love you. God bless you, and bye-bye.
Bye, guys.